Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to another lecture of Startup 101. Just a real quick reminder that this is being put on in collaboration between NORCAT Innovational as well as Sudbury's Regional Business Center. So they've got all sorts of seminars, different services, and things that you can take advantage of. It's also the place where you would go to register your business if you're willing and ready to take that step. So be sure to check them out online and follow both organizations on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you have, because there's a lot of good stuff going on that we're always promoting. So tonight's lecture is about product development, and we're really happy to have David Kerr from Analytics. So actually one of the companies co-located here in NORCAT, and I don't want to get too much into what you're about to say, so I'll leave it there. But Dave is the head of product with Analytics, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the product that they built, how they got there, and I guess a little bit of the story of Analytics. Perfect. So I'll leave it there, and I'll let Dave take it away.
Okay, thank you. Just to clear it, Analytics is a combination of the word mining and analytics, which is a big kind of data term, in case anyone was wondering. So, one of the things too about myself, I'm actually a graduate of what was the Entrepreneurship 101 program. Now it's the Startup 101. So good to see a lot of people out here today. It's a fantastic program. Stick with it. A lot of really valuable content and material. A lot of really good experienced people talking. And so I'm really happy to be here talking to you guys about some of the stuff that I've learned along the way and how I've applied some of the concepts that I learned throughout the course as well. So we're a software company, okay? So I know that some of you out there might not be really thinking about software. You might be thinking about a service or hardware or something like that. But what I really try to do here is tailor some of the concepts and especially some of our experiences in a generic way that it kind of applies to anybody who's thinking about building something, a product. So we'll talk about who we are, Analytics, and kind of the business that we do, and ultimately the product that we're building, because we're still actively developing it. We'll talk about the process of developing an idea, kind of what that looks like. I've simplified things. I know that you guys cover a lot of these topics already, the business model canvases and stuff like that, talking about all the lean startup concepts. So I've really tried to simplify all that and just talk again about how we've applied them and how it's helped us. And then I'm going to talk about software product development. Again, I'm not going to get into the gory details about how software comes to life, but I'm going to talk about some of the processes that we use, and again, how these things can be potentially reused for other types of products. And ultimately, I'll talk about the tools that we use, because a lot of these could potentially be used by yourselves, and a lot of them are free. So the company was formed originally by two guys, Dave Paris, Rob Patterson. These guys aren't here tonight. Usually they're the ones doing the talk. But we all figured that it made a bit more sense for me to do it tonight because I'm the guy kind of leading the charge on the product development, and because I know what you guys are going through as far as the course and the different material. But the three of us together kind of form the management team of Analytics. We've all worked together in the commercial software space, specifically for mining and exploration. So we all come from a history of developing software, supporting and implementing commercial software products. And so Dave and Rob are the guys who founded the company. And then I partnered with them a couple of years ago and have been leading the charge for the product. So we've all got degrees in computer science from Laurentian University, in fact. And as I mentioned, direct kind of related experience to the mining and exploration, which goes into the product we're building today. We'll talk about that later. So Analytics is a privately owned company. It was established in 2013, It's located in Sudbury, in fact, just around the corner in the NORCAT building. We currently have a staff of 10 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. So we've actually seen quite a bit of growth in those few years. And there's one slide that I wanted to include. We did this like overlay of the price of nickel and copper and gold, them all going down, and we're going up. So it's one of these comparisons. But it's been really good. NORCAT's been a really great place for us to grow and to have the resources available to us as a startup. And so as a business, we kind of have 2 business units, I'll call them. We've got what we call MX Services, so this is just a consulting group. So we handle software projects, whether it's defining requirements, scoping out, user interface design, doing project management, through to coding and supporting and implementing and all that stuff. So if there's anything along that kind of gambit of tasks, we can cater to all of those. And so we have a lot of local mining clients that we do a lot of work with, and mining contractors and stuff like that. So, the theme is we're focused on mining. And then we're developing, the other business unit is a product-focused business unit, which is developing a product called MX Deposit, which is something that, this is what I'll be talking to you about later, is the process of our product development. So what is a product? It's a bit of a cliche way to start a presentation with a definition, but there's a couple of things that I think are really important to just establish some terminology of what we're talking about here. So, a product is an idea, method, it's an object or a service, right? It doesn't have to be a physical thing, it can be a service as well. That's important. It's created as a result of a process and serves a need or satisfies a want. That's very important. And that's big in, the lean startup stuff, is you're always trying to identify what are the pain points, what are the problems, what are the needs, how can we kind of cater to those and fix those problems, right? It's a combination of tangible and intangible attributes that a seller offers a buyer for purchase. This is a business. We're in it to make money. If no one's going to pay for it, maybe you should think about the next one, right? So there's some important concepts here that this is kind of now establishing the terminology of what I mean when we talk about a product. It's also important to be aware that every product has a life cycle. Okay, so every product goes from an idea and through an introduction phase, through a growth phase where everybody's signing deals and you're getting POs and writing checks, to a maturity phase where some companies tend to get a little, fat, and then a decline phase. So this is something that's going to happen to your product, to our product. It's good to be aware of it. And what's important about knowing kind of which phase you're in, and I think we're all in the introduction here, this is what we're talking about. Even us as a company, our product is still very much in the introduction phase. Because as you step through these phases, you're going after, your target markets might be different. Your market saturation might be small. The amount of competitors that you have is going to be low. But as you progress, other people are going to catch on to what you're doing and you're going to have more competition. So it's good to just be aware of this. And at the end, either things are going to die or you've got to come up with a new feature, a new idea, and branch and pivot, right? Because these ideas, we've probably heard of these already. So the process that I've completely simplified here of developing a new product. So this is a new idea to product. Validate your hypothesis. You've probably heard about these things already. Build the MVP, and then build the product. Okay? Well, what do these mean? This thing is jumping. Okay, so a very basic structure that you could potentially use for your hypothesis. I believe the target market will do this action or use this solution or service for this reason. Okay? If you can put your idea into that sentence, then it means you've thought of a few things. You've thought of who you're going to sell to. You've thought of why you're selling it to them. And you've thought of why it's hitting their pain points, right? So once you've kind of established this hypothesis, now you've got to test it. Okay? So we need to explore the problem. Have we really identified a problem? You know, we may think that we've hit a pain point, but do you know for sure that this is a pain point? Have you been talking to the people that you consider your target market? Once you've identified that, yes, there's a pain point here, what's your proposed solution? Validate that. You know, I think that I can solve your problems by doing this for you. And they may say, yeah, maybe not. Okay, so you've got to make sure that your solution is in line with the pain points. It's very important that you need to speak to the target users, right? You need insight from the people who might be using or buying this product or service. And ultimately, based on feedback, and it should be a continuous thing, you need to decide, is this thing worth pursuing, or do we need to pivot, right? This idea, what resonated there? Maybe you came up with a new problem that you want to hit. Maybe you came up with a new solution somehow, or just a branch off of that. Be ready for that, because it happens sometimes without you even kind of realizing it. So for MX Deposit, for the product that we're building, there's a bit of a theme throughout our product development that everything's happened for us at a PDAC conference, which is a big mining and exploration conference in Toronto. For the mining industry, we were talking about it earlier, social media doesn't really work. There's not a lot of Twitter people or LinkedIn people. What we found is face-to-face conferences is really the best, right? So in 2015, we went to PDAC with a picture, an image, right? And an idea. And we then spoke to our target users and we presented the idea and said, here's the problem that we think you have. Yes, that was validated. And here's how we propose to solve it. That was validated too. Okay, so for us, that was an important time in the life cycle of MX Deposit because it validated what we thought we were doing and how we were going to approach it. So the decision was to keep going. So once you've decided that this is worth pursuing, minimum viable product, right? You've probably heard about this a lot in your lean startup presentation so far. And we've had internal arguments about what really is an MVP. And you're going to find all kinds of different things online and definitions about what an MVP really is. What we treated it as, and what I find fits the best, is this is the simplest thing that you can produce to get, to show to customers to get the most learning, okay? And what that means is, what is the most simple thing that you can do to convey your idea? And by doing that, you're gonna get insights into that, right? You wanna focus on what are your core value propositions. So for us, we're building MX Deposit in a nutshell is kind of a data management platform, right? It's a specific type of data that's specific to our target users, but it's a data management platform at the end of the day. We don't go at this and start talking about the ability to generate reports and import data and export data. These are secondary things. We go at it with our focused target core kind of value propositions, right? The secondary stuff just comes secondary. This just gets, it kind of comes with the platform. But if you need to focus on those core value propositions, because that's what people are going to tell you, yes, that makes sense, I'm going to pay money for that. The idea and the goal is to get insight, not just data, right? There's tools out there that kind of fit this MVP scenario and they'll help you collect data and how many people do you have, how much traffic do you have going to your website. A lot of that isn't going to tell you a lot if you don't have discussions with your users, right? You want insights. You want people to tell you what works, what doesn't work, how could it potentially be different. So again, with MX Deposit and PDAC, the following year, we went to the conference with now what I would call our MVP. It was about 60% functioning software, about 30% vaporware, it was designs and images, and then the rest of it was just concepts. This, to us, was the simplest thing that we could produce to really get targeted insights into this. So again, we had our target market there. We were revalidating the problems we were trying to solve, and we were further validating our solution. Some examples that I think work, these are by far more software company examples, but again, to give you some ideas. An explainer video. We all know what Dropbox is. Dropbox is a company started with what they would call the MVP. It was a video. And this video was the only thing that was on their screen, on their website for, I think, a year or something like that. And the amount of traction that they got off of that video, I was reading this one article where they started with initial version, I think it got them 5,000, signed up users within a short amount of time. And then they did a revision to the video, and within a week, that number went to 75,000 users over a video, okay? So this video did everything that it needed to do. It talked about the pain points, it talked about the solution, and people said, wow, I need this, and signed up. A landing page, right? This could just be a website that you formulated that talks about your value proposition, and probably more importantly, it calls the users to action. What is the action that you want them to do? Well, for a lot of times, it's just you want them to sign up to a newsletter or something like that. You want them to sign up as a contact that then you can now maybe start feeding a bit of a sales pipeline. But really, the people who are going to follow through with the action are the people that you know are interested. And you can validate your pricing model through a landing page as well, right? You can tell them, here's the problems we're going to solve, here's how we're going to solve it, and this is how much it's going to cost. And so after all of that, if somebody still says, yeah, sounds good, sign me up, well, you've pretty much just made a sale right there. You validated the idea. And the last example of an MVP is a single featured MVP. So one of the best examples of this is Google. They started with a search, right? This was a single featured product that they brought to market. It provides a better search. And one of the nice things about if you've been able to kind of focus in on a single thing and a single feature, in our case in software, our feature list is really big. So we can't do this one. But if you can do this kind of single feature, it's a great validation. Because if you can't get traction off of that single feature, don't just start throwing other features at it. They're not going to help. Okay, so it's a way to really just test that one idea. So once you've now established that, okay, this is an idea that has got some traction, people like what we're doing, we've got people maybe signed up, we've validated the pricing model, now let's build the product. Let's get the dream team established, could be 1 or 2 people, get the right people to do it. Focus on high-performing teams. These are teams that have common goals. Let's get business processes to support people, to enable people to just get this product out the door. We need to focus on core features as well as all these supporting features. So for us, we now, when we're going to get to market, we have our core features, but we also need to get these supporting features done as well. Plan to scale. When you get to market day 1 and you start selling, maybe you only have a few sales for the first 3 months, 6 months, but who knows? Maybe you get picked up in an article somewhere and overnight your sales jump. If you can't meet that demand, then it's going to hurt, right? So in the software world, if your website starts crashing, you only get one chance for a lot of these things. So have a plan on how you're going to scale things. For software, it's relatively easy. We've got cloud platforms that we can just set up, and Amazon Web Services could just auto-scale for us. But we had to think about that and we had to plan for it. Build iteratively. We're going to talk about this next and how we actually do development in an iterative fashion and always involve the customer. Again, we need to keep our target users involved. We need to make sure that as we add features and as we add the bells and whistles, that they are actually providing value. If they're not providing value, maybe you don't need to worry about it yet, right? What do you really need to get to market to start selling this thing? Maybe some of that other stuff can come later, and you don't have to focus on it yet. The only person who can really tell you that is the person who might pay for it. Be flexible to change. Things can happen very quickly. You might have a demo one day and somebody may throw something at you that all of a sudden you need to just readjust things. It's happened to us a couple times. It's a great problem to have, but you've got to be able to be flexible in your processes and kind of where you are and adapt to these things. Now, with that being said, you don't want to go off chasing red herrings or shiny balls as they kind of appear, right? We have to maintain a bit of focus, and even if somebody comes at you and says, I like what you're doing, but if you could build this, then I would buy it right away. And you say, well, okay, but we're going to hold off on that for now because we truly believe that this initial stream is what we should be doing. Sometimes it's a hard discussion to have if that is willing to pay a lot of money for it. So that now hits, that's a pretty quick summary, I think, of the process, right? Again, I didn't want to go into too much details because I think that's something that you guys have already gone through with these sessions. But that's kind of a simplified version that has worked well for us. So one of the things I didn't talk about, building the product. Our product is slated to be released at the upcoming PDAC. So it's been really great for us to have this one annual event where pretty much all of our target users are in the same, under the same roof for about 4 days. So we focus everything around that. We did our hypothesis testing, our MVP validation, and now we're going to do our big product launch. So for us, that works, right? Doing these blitz social media campaigns, we don't really see a lot of value in those things. So everything's a little bit different. It all depends on where you are and what market you're going into. So when you're building a product, this is what we want to avoid. This I've seen a bunch of times living in the product development space. If it's new to you, I think it's a great thing because it talks about communication, it talks about perception, and it talks about what we really need to be focusing on, right? So our customer has explained a certain concept to us, maybe we understood it a certain way, and then we communicated it a different way to the engineering team who built it a certain way. Of course, the sales guys is promoting it as this other thing. It was documented as nothing. It was supported as minimal. So this is really important to just make sure that what the customer is explaining is, first of all, are they really explaining it right? Maybe they're saying one thing, but can we kind of probe them a bit and say, okay, well, I hear that you're saying this, but is this really your pain point? And sometimes they may have a bit of an aha moment and say, oh yeah, you're right. My problems aren't with a product or a process, they're something else. So, but the other key thing to try to mitigate this is continuous feedback. And this is very important in the lean startup model as well. In our product development, it just carries over. And you'll see that theme in the next couple slides. The best thing that can happen is that you validate things quickly, rapid iteration, get feedback as fast as possible, and then pivot, change. Agile now is something that really governs what we do. And the word agile is very much like the word lean. They share a lot of very common principles. In software development, there's a team of researchers, I guess, I don't know, maybe industry, that got together and basically they got sick of the typical software development model where you spent 6 months scoping out requirements, you spent 6 months developing something, you spend 3 months testing it, and you deliver it to a client and they say, yeah, it looks great, but it doesn't do what I really need it to do. This happened a lot, and I've gone through it in my own career. And so these guys said there has to be a better way to do this. And so they came up with this Agile manifesto. And pardon the kind of potato quality image, but I wanted to stay true to what these guys produced. And this is pulled right off of their site, theagilemanifesto.org. Really what's important here is that it values individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It's all about people, feedback, teamwork. Working software over comprehensive documentation. The true metric of progress in a software project is working software, right? That's pretty much what that means. If you can show me something, then I see progress, right? Don't just show me a chart or a report or anything like that. Show me what you've done. And so it focuses on that. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. We don't need to spend all this time talking about requirements and fixed price quotes and that kind of stuff. Let's just dive into the work as fast as we can, produce something for you early on that then we get your feedback on, and then we can pivot, right? We can change. A lot of times when it comes to money, we might have to time box things, say, okay, we're going to work for you for 6 months, but what gets delivered after those 6 months could be very different from what we're talking about today, because we're going to pivot along the way. We're going to show you something, and then you're going to tell us, yeah, I like that, but I don't like that. Say, no problem. We can now adjust and be agile and focus on these new requirements. And responding to change over following a plan. Project Management 101, define a project scope. These are very rigid statements that sometimes are hard to kind of get yourself out of. Well, in the Agile world, we don't deal with project scopes necessarily. There's other ways of dealing with the scope, but really it's being Agile. It's being flexible, and it's doing feedback loops, continuous feedback loops. And so the idea is that what we see on the left-hand side is just what we value more. It's not to say that the stuff on the right-hand side is zero value, but we feel that these things on the left are of more value. An important thing for us, and I think an important thing in general for product development, and even just as a company, is user experience. Okay, I wanted to dedicate some time to it because it's a big part of our brand, it's a big part of our value proposition, and I think it's something that you need to think about as well in your own product ideas. And really a broad definition of a user experience are all the aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. The products is the last one of those three. So for us, our user experience is our banners. It's the font and the colors and the layout of our banners. It's the font and the colors and the layout of our PowerPoint slides and our Word documents and our proposals that we send out. And we carry those over to our website and we carry them further into our product. So that any time that anybody is interacting with us as a company, first of all, they know that it's Minilytics because we use a special font. And orange is our big color, and we use teal on the other side. So these colors mean something. We want a continuous user experience, and we want people to identify the brand and effectively trust the brand. What it really does, there's a couple of interesting things that come out of it. And again, maybe more on the software side. If you have a very positive user experience, it creates this very positive perception of the product. And in turn, users will typically be a bit more forgiving of any product shortfall. So if your product had issues or something wasn't working or bugs or whatnot, if you focused your efforts on a good user experience, they tend to be more forgiving of those things. And the other interesting thing that happens is that users will tend to try to solve their own problems, right? So if you've kind of shown that you've thought about the user and thought about their goals and thought about their tasks, then they'll kind of, okay, these guys have probably figured this out, so maybe I'll just take a bit of time to try to understand this problem I'm having and figure it out on my own, which means less calls to the support line, which means cost savings. Right? So we as a company, we put the money up front. We invest in user experience because we truly believe the value that can be realized there. So to get there is something called lean UX, right? Lean user experience. This word, lean, agile, these things get used interchangeably and can get applied to a couple of different ideas. But really, it's just continuous loops. So in the UX world, this is, sketching out ideas. It's sketching out user journeys throughout the software. It's then presenting that to a team. It's critiquing that. it's adjusting that, presenting it again, critiquing it, adjusting it, presenting it, critiquing it. You get the idea. It's a continuous loop. And you've got to keep doing this because you don't want to end up spending a month down a certain design only to realize that you were kind of going down the wrong path, right? We want to make sure that we're always working on not only the highest priority things and the things that are going to deliver the most business value, but that we're just on the right track, right? And we do it all the time. We've got an in-house head of design, and we're constantly going through designs and iterations of interface mockups and wireframes and stuff like that. And so this leads us to Agile Scrum. This is a methodology that we use here. This is something, if anybody has any experience in the software world, it's kind of a thing that's taken over as the go-to methodology to develop software. And it really just revolves around short iterations of development cycles. And at the end of those cycles, you produce working software. So again, going to back to what I said earlier, one of the best metrics that we have to measure against is working software, not just a status update, but actual software that works and it does something. And so I won't go through too much detail in how this methodology works. There's a lot to it. There's artifacts. There's different roles that people in the team can play. But effectively, we deal with a product backlog, which is a set of requirements. What do we want this thing to do? And we constantly groom this, and we constantly change the order of priorities as we get new information. As we have new discussions with people, or something comes along in the technology world that we can maybe make use of, these priorities change, and we allow and we accept that change, and we adapt. Into a sprint planning session, which means, okay, team, what are we going to do for the next 2 to 4 weeks? What's our next iteration? Which then turns into a sprint backlog, which is basically, okay, this is what we're going to do. From this list of priorities, we're going to deliver these 3 new features. And they're going to be done to the state that we could potentially release it to market, maybe make a new sale off of it. Okay? So what's nice about doing this, and what really works about this, is that at the end of the iteration, it starts over again. And so now we look to the list again and say, okay, so today, what are the priorities? A month ago, the priorities were A, B, C, D. But today, something changed. We did a demo with a client. We did this. Some guy had some problems. So now the priority is B, C, D, A, right? So it's a system that allows for that change in priorities and change in requirements. Something that's really important for us in the software world, and arguably for any product that's out there and is going to be developed, is quality control. And the reason why it's important is because the cost of non-quality, this is a metric that is comp, but the cost of non-quality gets astronomical kind of the further on in the, after it's been delivered, right? So as we develop software, if we can catch issues and bugs and problems in the software early on, the cost to fix those issues is minimal, right? The developer's already got the environment set up, he's already in the code, he's familiar, he can just go and fix it right away. Whereas if it starts going to the next step, and now we've passed it off to, we're ready, if it's failed our automated testing, or it's into our manual QA testing, if those guys have found it now, the cost has increased a little bit because now the developer has to stop what he was working on because he's already moved on to the next thing. He's got to put a pause on that. He's got to get his environment set up again for that issue, wrap his head around it again. So the time to fix it and the cost is higher, right? And now if these issues get through to production, now it's even higher, right? Some of it can even be opportunity cost here. But the guys have to get the environment set up again. We've got to maybe revert the production environment to a previous version if this is a critical issue. So it's really important that we try to find these issues as early on in the process as possible. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of automation that you can do, especially for us in the software game. We can build automated, tests. We can even automate browser interactions, like a user clicking through a browser. There's tools to do that as well. But we ultimately just hired a full-time resource, a quality control resource, because this is, again, one of the things that, as a company, we've identified as a risk, and we've chosen to invest in it early on and get the tools in place and get the code built in a way that can be automated, can be automatically deployed to test environments and all that kind of stuff. So we've taken the time and spent the money to hit it dead on so that we don't end up in this at the end of this. Sometimes it happens, sometimes stuff slips through, and when that does happen, you've got to learn from it. It has to be this, again, this continuous improvement, right? What happened? How did the problem slip through? And what can we do to prevent it from happening in the future? These are important questions to ask. So how do we do it? In the software world, we have a lot of different things that we can, a lot of different tools that we can make use of. So there's test management software out there to just manage test cases. So a user should be able to click here, input this, and see this output. Okay, that's a test case. And then you can do kind of edge cases. Okay, if the user did this, and then they click cancel, here's what I expect the software to do. So we need to think about it. We need to identify all these different scenarios, all the edge cases, and make sure that we've handled them properly. User experience testing. So if we've gone through the efforts of doing this lean UX, this user experience design, and we've gone through iterations and critiquing designs, if you've spent all that time up front to make sure that your user experience is optimized, well then when the guys actually implement it, it's got to be to spec, right? We've got to make sure that what's actually getting built is meeting what we want. And there's some reasons behind it, right? It's not just hey, well, I thought I told you to do this. No, it's we spent 2 weeks critiquing this design until we came to one that the three of us agreed to. This is what we need, and here's the reason why. In the software game, we need to focus on load testing and performance testing, right? So we need to make sure that the software is responsive. We don't want things to slow down as the users jump up. We want to make sure that we are replicated across the world in case one data center goes down or something like that. So the only way to really ensure these things is to test it, is to kind of throw these scenarios at the system and try to bombard it and see what happens, right? It's only by doing that kind of testing that you know how you're going to hold up to it. And then you can now start going through the learning process to say, what happened? Why did it happen? How do we prevent it from happening in the future? Compatibility testing, we're building a mobile application. So it's an Android device. There's 50 different Android devices on the market. How does this thing perform across all these different devices? There's tools that can do that. We went out and bought a couple of the leading devices so that we can manually do it. Same with, for us, it's browsers, right? There's Chrome, there's Internet Edge, there's Firefox, there's Safari. How does our product work across all of these different platforms? Again, some tools can handle some of that, but ultimately, sometimes it has to be a manual process. And security testing is a big one for us as well. We're handling sensitive information. We need to make sure that clients have confidence in their data, the way it's being stored, and that motivated attackers don't have a way through the back door. So the last thing that I'll talk about here is some of the tools that we use to kind of enable us throughout the process, okay? And some of these things are specific to software development, but a lot of them aren't. And in fact, a lot of them are free. So I'll go through these just to give you a brief thing, and I'll be around at the end. If anyone has any questions about anything we've talked about, or even any of these tools, by all means, hit me up. But one of the things that's important is to express your ideas, get your ideas down, right? I know I've seen a lot of presentations about product development, and they talk about a notepad. Start writing your stuff down. Just get your ideas down, whether it's concepts, whether it's crude drawings, or whatever shape or form it might be, but get it down. We use PowerPoint. I mean, PowerPoint's a great tool for just doing quick screenshots and markups and drag in a shape and identify a concept. Balsamic is another tool for building user interface mockups, so this is very much software specific. And Sketch is almost a Photoshop kind of competition. This is for developing high fidelity designs. But for us, you know, our user experience and our lean UX process, it's very important to have designs that we can look at that replicate the end product. So these, with a tool like Sketch, can do that. Strategic planning. MS Project is, we keep going back to it. It's just a project management tool. You've got tasks, you've got estimates, you've got resources, you've got costs, and now just start playing with it. You know, when can you deliver stuff? How much is it going to cost you? What's the schedule? When can you deliver? You know, these are just basic questions that I think everybody would pose at some point in your development process. Who's going to do the work? How much is it going to cost you? When's it going to get done? And then there's another tool called AHA that is a really neat product in that it provides a platform for us to identify, you know, what's our vision, who are our competitors, what are our user personas, which is a good thing to do as well. You know, who are the different types of users of the product? You might have low-level data entry guys versus project managers versus C-level executives. Each one of those users is going to have a different goal when they're using your product, right? And so they should each have a slightly different user experience. It's important things to identify and understand what each user's goal is and how to achieve that goal in the simplest way possible. Down into task management. So now that you've identified all the tasks that need to get done, how do you just stay on top of these things? Project management tools can help there a little bit, but the best tools out there for that, Trello is amazing. If anybody doesn't know what Trello is, check it out, it's free. You can set up these like swim lanes, right? They're columns, and in each column you just set up cards. They can be anything, tasks. My wife and I share a Trello board for groceries and, you know, the list of stuff to do around the house. You have a to-do column, you have an in-progress column, you have a done column. I mean, that's a simple implementation of it, but you can adjust this however you want. And then people drag items back and forth. Here's my list of to-do, and you drag things around in the order that they should get done. Okay, I'm going to work on this thing, I'll drag it to the in-progress column. It's assigned to me, I can put comments on it, people know that I'm working on it. My wife knows that I'm in Costco getting yogurt because I dragged it across, you know? But for development, it worked out really well because now we know, okay guys, work off this list, prioritize, I can see who's doing what, I can see who's finished what, so I can go in and start testing it. And then I can flag it as being done, or drag it back and say, Joe, you've got something to fix. Jira takes that concept to the next level. And it's I wouldn't say it's focused to software development, but it absolutely has its roots in software development. So it again just has these ideas of columns. It's the task board. What's the work to do? What's the priority of things to do? What's currently being worked on and who's doing it? What's done? And then what's absolutely finished that we're ready to bring it to market. And then we can track time spent on those things. We can do burn down charts to say, okay, we thought that to do these 10 tasks was going to take us 2 weeks. How are we doing on a day-to-day basis? we're burning through these things. This task is taking a little bit longer than we thought. But Trello is a great one. Free. Jira, it costs a little bit more money, but it's just got that much more structure. And Maven Link is a project management tool. So this is kind of like MS Project, but it's one of these cloud software tools and lets you set up budgets and track budgets and stuff like that. It's another good one. One thing that's really important as the product kind of evolves, and really, I think is really important as it's going through that introduction phase, is how are people using your product? For us in the software world, we can actually use tools to track that and to tell us that. So we can use tools to tell us where are people logging in from, what devices are they on, what version of Windows are they running, what path did they take throughout the software, and where do they spend most of their time. There's a whole bunch of tools that can do that for us. But for non-software products, I think you can do it also by just getting it into the user's hands and maybe stepping back a little bit and just saying, go, just try to use it. I saw this one presentation of an ex-product manager from Google, and he was talking about something called, what he called the Starbucks test. And it was literally set up shop in Starbucks. As people come in, you offer to buy them coffee, and in return, you just let them play with something for a couple of minutes and get feedback. That kind of feedback is just, it's invaluable. And what did it cost you? For that little scenario, it didn't cost very much. Mixed panel, intercom, these are software tools. These are things you embed within a software site, and they tell us, the developers of the software, who the demographic is, what the devices are, what the traffic is, stuff like that. Google Analytics is free. If you have a website, you need to get Google Analytics. Just go get it. Go home, search for it, sign up for it, set it up. Because you probably all will have a website at some point. This is just going to start telling you who are the visitors of your website. Where are they coming from? Maybe you don't care so much about what devices they're using, but you're going to get an idea about your traffic. And again, it's free. It's a beautiful thing. Customer service is really important. We use a tool called Zendesk. And what this does, if you guys have browsed around stores and other, software products, web apps and stuff like that, you may have seen these little chat windows that pop up and people say, hey, can I help you? That's customer service, right? We want to engage with our customers. We want to ensure that they have an optimized user experience. And sometimes that just means initiating a conversation with them. So a tool like Zendesk facilitates that. It also acts as a bit of an inbox for support. So as people are asking questions or they're logging issues, it's a way to centralize those things. Now, we use this from a software development perspective. We have a software product, but there's all kinds of case studies of people using this, like HR departments using this internally as just a way to engage with their client. For HR departments, their clients are the other business units in the company, right? So if you have a scenario or a product that your users are online, a tool like Zendesk can just connect you to them in a way that you could never, to do it on your own would just cost way too much money. Sign up for a service like Zendesk and you've got it, out of the box. And there's other options there. We've done an evaluation, but that one definitely kind of stands apart. And finally, team communication. This is an important one of just keeping the team connected, right? If you're in an open office space, yeah, it's pretty easy to kind of pop your head around, hey, how's it going? Ask a question. But I know in our world, we have guys working remotely a lot. And some people just like communicating over chats and stuff like that. So there's tools, we use one called HipChat. There's another popular one called Slack. I'm pretty sure these are free again. So these are Messenger. Remember old MSN Messenger and Link and stuff like that? Well, it's those, but it's for a team. So you create a room and you've got all the guys in your team, and now you can just start communicating and start blasting off quick messages, you can put links to multimedia, you can even build integrations into this. So we've got our automated testing framework. It's whenever our guys, make code comments or commits, it sparks this automated build process. And if there's ever a problem with that, it now spits out error messages to our communication channel so that we're kept up to date real time on issues that are happening within our own process. But then it also enables us as a team to say, hey Bob, you got this? You gonna look into this? So stuff like that. It's really, really important just to keep the team engaged. Text messaging only goes so far. Email can be a nightmare. Your inbox just gets bombarded. Tools like this have really become invaluable. So that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about here. I didn't talk about our product very much. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted to talk more about the process and the tools. So hopefully I've done that. Hopefully I've given you some ideas of maybe some of these concepts or ideas or tools even that you could use in your own ideas. I absolutely wish everybody luck in pursuing your ideas. Like I said, I was in the course, I was in your chair 2 years ago, and now I'm up on stage. It's a success story, I guess. But now I'm able to actually apply these things, and it's great. It works, right? So yeah, thank you.
Questions, anyone?
Problem?
Nope. I don't know.
You know that workshop that we're going to do on the website?
Yeah, the value proposition one.
They're like longer workshops.
They are.
Do you need to have like a clear idea of is this like a workshop like this?
It's very early stage, so it's about taking whatever your idea is and trying to kind of flesh it out and mold it into something. So talk a little bit about value propositions and who your customers are, figuring out what that pain point is. That kind of thing. It's taking a deep dive into those.
So, if my friends
If they're working on product, idea. No, okay, yeah. Just so that just make sure that they all register. Okay, so that we have the appropriate size of the books. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we just going to be if you registered, is it just
It's going to be everybody that registers. So there's going to be kind of a group session where everyone is kind of learning, and then I believe there's also going to be some kind of a that's with one-on-one ALS. If you're maybe able to show up to that.
and in order to have the last
How much do you want? Because I missed it.
Yep.
pay back if you are registered to the regional?
Yeah, so if you register on the event, right, active facility is actually so awesome, right? So you pay $50 when you completed the course. It's a great course. No, you just when you complete the workshop, because you registered, they got your email address and all that kind of stuff. They'll send you a survey. So once you complete that survey, it's just a way some marks get the feedback and it's kind of a bit.
So we don't need to go to the regional, I don't know how to say that word, I don't know.
The registration day?
No, the business center.
No, you don't need to go to the regional business center.
So we don't need to register for this.
No, not
in order to have the $50 kickback?
No, no.
Okay.
So it's just that Eventbrite page, so that email that you got, there's a link for registration. Click on that, follow the instructions, you should be able to.
I think maybe what we're talking about, Kyle, does say that you have to be registered with a regional innovation center.
That's us. That's NORCAT. That's NORCAT.
Oh, okay, so, like I'm registered with Cambridge, everything.
Yeah.
That'd be the same work as well, or?
No, because you take part in Startup 101, you're registered with us.
Okay.
You're with NORCAT.
And we put you as our contact?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but my team, like, they're 14, 15,
Okay.
and 16.
Years old? Yeah.
Years old.
Are they able to get the time on
What
the
was teasing?
They're all homeschooled.
Oh, okay.
So, that's why, yes, they can come during the day, and that's, you know, it's a lot of software where it's not too much my field, so, you're gonna watch that video for sure,
Okay.
but I would wish, and it's not, I'm not the head, it's a my idea, I'm just trying to help as much as I can, and bring whatever I
so
can. So, but I, you know, this is where we are at now, I just to put our ideas together and listen to what you have to say. If you have made the idea,
Okay.
I'm just here to clarify, okay, what you mean and kind of, so, but they're,
Yeah.
18.
Okay.
Can they register to this too?
They release a lot of things. By all means, they can participate in